Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive on Moringa.
Moringa.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about whether it can really lower blood sugar. I mean, I've seen it called the miracle tree,
Oh, yeah.
so I'm really curious to unpack that a little.
I think before we get into Moringa, though, we should talk about diabetes and blood sugar control in general.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not just a magical quick fix, right?
Yeah.
So for those listening who maybe aren't super familiar with diabetes, can you kind of give us like a diabetes 101? Like, why is blood sugar control so important?
Sure. So diabetes is basically a condition where your body has trouble regulating glucose, which is the sugar that's in your bloodstream.
Okay.
And there are two main types.
Okay.
Type 1 diabetes is where your body doesn't make insulin at all, and insulin's a hormone that manages the glucose.
Uh-huh.
And then there's type 2 diabetes, which is where your body either isn't making enough insulin or it's not using insulin the right way.
Gotcha. So what happens if your blood sugar isn't managed well? What are some of the things that can go wrong?
Well, if you imagine that your blood vessels are like a delicate highway system,
Oh.
having high blood sugar all the time can damage those highways.
Oh.
And that can really increase your risk for some pretty serious complications like heart disease or stroke, nerve damage, even kidney problems.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really good analogy. I mean, that really
Yeah.
paints a picture of why keeping your blood sugar in check is so important.
Right.
So where does Moringa fit into all of this?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Moringa has all these nutrients in it that seem to be really good at helping to regulate blood sugar.
Oh, wow. Like what? Tell me more.
Okay, so there was one study that was published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology,
Okay.
and they found that moringa leaf powder actually reduced fasting blood sugar levels by an average of 28% in people who had type 2 diabetes.
Wow, 28%?
Yeah, and another study showed that there was a really big reduction in something called HbA1c,
Mm.
which basically tells you what your average blood sugar levels were over the past few months. It's a good way to see how well you're managing your blood sugar long term.
So it's not just a temporary thing. It's actually helping people over time.
Exactly.
That's really cool. So what is it about Moringa that makes it so powerful?
Well, it's got this awesome combination of compounds. For example, there's something in moringa called chlorogenic acid,
Okay.
which is an alpha-glucosidase inhibitor.
Mm.
Well, that sounds really complicated,
Yeah.
but all it means is that it slows down how fast carbohydrates break down in your gut,
Okay.
which means that glucose is released into your bloodstream more slowly.
Oh, so instead of getting those blood sugar spikes after you eat,
Exactly.
it's more gradual.
It's more even-keeled.
That's got to be huge for people who, struggle with those after meal energy crashes.
Oh, totally. And then there are these things called isothiocyanates.
Isothiocyanates.
Yeah, they're kind of a mouthful.
Yeah.
But they're really cool. They actually do two things.
Well,
They improve how sensitive your body is to insulin.
so your body can actually use the insulin better.
Exactly. And they also help to fight inflammation, which we see a lot with diabetes.
It's amazing to me that like one plant can have so many good things in it.
It really is. It's like nature's little multivitamin.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's interesting too is that these benefits aren't just for people with diabetes.
Yeah.
Moringa could help anyone who wants to have more stable energy throughout the day or, get rid of those sugar cravings.
Totally. I mean, who doesn't want more stable energy?
I know, right? But before we get too excited,
Yeah.
we were talking earlier about blood sugar control being really important. Are there any risks or downsides to using Moringa, especially for people who are already taking medication for their diabetes?
Yeah, that's a really important question and something you should definitely talk to your doctor about. Moringa is generally pretty safe, but like anything else you're putting into your body, it could interact with medications.
So it's not like it replaces medication.
Right. It's really important to understand that moringa isn't a magic cure or anything. It's not a substitute for traditional treatments for diabetes like insulin.
Okay.
Those are still really important for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Moringa is more like something that can work with your current treatment plan.
Oh, so it can like help it work better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It might even mean you could take less medication.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's all about working with your doctor to find the right approach for you.
Definitely. That's why it's so important to be open with your doctor about everything you're taking.
Makes sense. Safety first.
Right. They can help you figure out the right dose of moringa and make sure it's not going to cause any problems with your other meds.
So let's say someone is listening and they're thinking, okay, I want to try this Moringa thing.
Mm.
What are some good ways to add it to their daily routine?
Well, the cool thing about moringa is that it comes in a bunch of different forms. Like you can get it as a powder or capsules or even tea or fresh leaves.
Wow, so many options.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about the powder. What's the best way to use that?
The powder is super popular. It's easy to mix into things like smoothies or yogurt or even oatmeal. It has kind of an earthy taste, but it goes well with a lot of different flavors.
Ooh, I bet it would be great in a green smoothie.
Totally.
Mm.
And then if you're looking for something super convenient, you could try the capsules.
Yeah, those are nice because they're already measured out.
Exactly. And they don't have any taste if that's not your thing.
And what about tea? Can you just like brew moringa leaves like regular tea?
Yep, you can make moringa tea. It has a pretty mild flavor, a little bit sweet. You can have it hot or cold.
Hmm,
Some people even say that drinking it before meals helps to keep their blood sugar more stable.
interesting.
So, yeah, lots of ways to enjoy it.
So many choices.
Yeah,
It sounds like there's a moringa option for everyone.
pretty much.
I'm curious though, is there like a specific amount of moringa that people should aim for?
It's always best to start slow with any supplement.
Okay.
So I usually tell people to begin with 1 teaspoon of the powder per day, and then you can slowly increase it from there if you feel good.
And again, talk to your doctor before starting anything new, especially if you're already on medication.
For sure. They can help you figure out what's right for you.
Now, we've been focusing a lot on how moringa can help with blood sugar, but I've also read that it has a ton of other nutrients that are good for your overall health.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's like a nutritional powerhouse.
Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Remember those antioxidants we were talking about?
Yeah.
Well, they're not just good for blood sugar. They actually help protect your cells from damage caused by free radicals.
And those are the things that can lead to aging and disease, right?
Exactly. So moringa can give your immune system a boost and help keep your cells healthy.
And potentially even lower the risk of some chronic illnesses.
That's the idea. And on top of the antioxidants, moringa has a good amount of vitamins and minerals, too.
Like what?
You've got your vitamins A, C, and E, and then minerals like calcium, iron, potassium.
It's amazing how nature just provides all these incredible things for us.
It really is. And the coolest part is that scientists are still learning more about moringa all the time. They're looking into how it can help with things like inflammation and cholesterol.
So even though we've been talking about blood sugar today, moringa could have even more to offer.
Definitely. It's a plant with tons of potential. It's definitely worth exploring further.
I agree. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating.
Totally. There's always something new to discover.
Well said. So I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today.
I hope so.
But before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your final thoughts on moringa and its potential for helping people with their blood sugar.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I've learned today is that moringa isn't like a magic bullet or anything. It's not going to instantly fix everything.
Right. It's more like a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
You know, it needs to be part of a bigger picture, like eating a healthy diet and getting enough exercise.
And managing stress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, working with your doctor to make sure it's right for you.
So it's like a tool in your toolbox.
That's a great way to put it.
But it's not the only tool.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what makes it so appealing for a lot of people. It's a natural way to support your health. You know, you don't have to do anything crazy or worry about a bunch of side effects.
So if someone's listening to this and they're thinking, okay, I want to try moringa, where would you recommend they start?
Well, there's a ton of information online and in libraries. You know, just do a little research.
Okay.
Look for stuff from reliable sources like scientific journals or health organizations.
Like evidence-based stuff.
Exactly.
Mhm.
They can give you the real scoop on moringa and how to use it safely.
And I bet there are probably some online communities or forums where people talk about their experiences with moringa.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Connecting with other people who are using moringa can be really helpful.
Yeah, you can get tips and recipes and stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
Just remember that everyone's different.
Right.
So what works for one person might not work for another.
Yeah.
And always, always talk to your doctor before you make any big changes to your health routine.
Great advice. So before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with about moringa and its potential for lowering blood sugar?
I think the most important thing is to stay curious.
Okay.
Keep learning. Keep asking questions. And don't be afraid to try new things, but always do your research and be smart about it.
Awesome. Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive into moringa. It's been a really interesting conversation.
You're welcome. It's always fun to talk about this stuff.
And to all of our listeners, thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery. Remember, your health is your most valuable asset. So take care of it, and we'll see you next time.